Information Minister receives kidnapped journalist and family. NSA assures of continued synergy in rescuing other kidnapped Nigerians.
And this is the mandate given to them to ensure that all those who are kidnapped, security agencies are at their best, using new tactical methods to ensure that these kidnapped victims are brought back to their homes, to their families in safety.
Operation Well Punch destroys terrorist enclave in Giwa, Kaduna State.
NDLEA intercepts Euro-bound hard drugs concealed in clothing and other items.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall examine food import waiver and much later, the African Natural Resource and Energy Investment Summit.
Just last week, here on this platform, I relayed how I bought a bag of rice for 70,000 naira. Well, Mr. Chukudi now said that it had gone up to 84,000 naira. I recounted how a man also wanted to buy a bag of rice, but instead had to settle for what, we just have to call in local parlance a mudu of rice due to the high cost of the commodity in the market, including other things too.
Well, Jimmy, you're just stating the reality for every Nigerian at the moment. The purchasing power of families have reduced drastically. Rice used to be the toast of many homes, of course, every Sunday.
Every Sunday, rice. So it is the sweetest.
Does that still happen these days? I doubt.
Nobody
now
knows
it's becoming a commodity with high stakes, and if you like, for the very rich, and for most households, the question of affordability is the bone of contention. And it cuts across all commodity, not just rice, but every food item and services. Talking about every food item, even pepper is affected.
Even pepper, tomato, 65,000 naira for just a basket of tomatoes some weeks back. And we can continue to talk about this always, but it is our reality. A reality of inflation staring us in the face with defiance. And so perhaps in a desperate bid toward this factor off, the federal government approved 150-day duty-free import window for assorted food commodities.
Good news, if you like, Jimmy. According to reports, the suspension of duties covers maize, wheat, cowpea and hushed brown rice, and will be subject to a recommended retail price. Before now, the 2023 ECOWAS Common External Tariff of 2022 to 2026 raised tariff on rice to 60%, while that of grains stood at about 70%.
Yes, and wheat is the most consumed grain after rice and corn, and the 2023 data from the National Bureau of Statistics indicates Nigeria's wheat import in the third quarter of 2023 is the highest in the last 4 quarters, amounting to more than 331 billion naira. And the Ukraine crisis too sort of caused a lot of commotion when it comes to wheat.
You can say
spaghetti,
that again.
Indomie and all that being produced from that commodity. Well, Nigerians love food,
By the way, what have you been feeding on with the high cost of food items? Like, have you sought alternatives?
No, actually, since I'm not a foodie, so I eat as I move. I don't have a particular meal that I love, and all that. I'm not a foodie. If I see food, I eat. If I don't see it, I just
this economy favors you.
Yes, it does, actually.
Anyways, fluctuation in exchange rate is not even helping the situation. And for people like us that eat a lot, like Jimmy, the prices of food in Nigeria is a big concern. And at the moment, Nigeria is listed as one of the 41 countries with low income food deficits in the world. The NBS reports that the exchange rate has a significant impact on macroeconomics variables such as inflation.
Yes, inflation has been going up and up and up. It refuses to come down. And as part of waiver on import duty commodities by federal government, 250,000 metric tons of wheat and 250,000 metric tons of maize will be supplied to small-scale processors and millers across the country. Now, what are the gains and prospects of the duty-free imports? And will this scale up production for 2024-2025 planting season? And will it also tackle food crisis in the country? You want to find out about all this? Please don't go away. Stay with us on Good Morning Nigeria today. We have analysts that will break it down for you. I am Juma Yusuf. You're welcome to the program, the first for the week.
All right, many questions there, and I hope we actually find the right answers to them. Of course, on the second topic, would be looking at the forthcoming African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit, AFNIS. You want to know what that's all about? So stay with us. I'm Ian John. This is our outlook for Good Morning Nigeria this beautiful Monday. Chukwudi Okolu-Gbaja will join us shortly for newspaper review. But for now, let's find out from Olajide Bello if he's a foodie or not and how he's coping with the realities. Olajide, good morning to
Olajide is a foodie. He doesn't play with his stomach.
Good morning, Jumaya and Yenre. You know, I've started watching my weight. Although I'm a foodie, but I've started watching my weight. Good morning, Nigeria, and here is the morning news. The National Security Advisor, Nouri Badi, has handed over rescued Kaduna journalists and their family to the Minister of Information and National Orientation in his office in Abuja. The journalist and the family of one of them were handed over after undergoing post-trauma examination in the office of the NSA. Minister of Information and National Orientation appealed to Nigerians to keep faith with the Tinubu administration, assuring that all kidnapped persons will be brought home safely. The rescued journalists and their family were kidnapped from their homes in Kaduna about a week ago.
I want to reiterate that this is part of the ongoing effort that the NSA is doing to bring back people who have been taken into custody without paying ransom. This is part of the desire of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is the mandate given to them to ensure that all those who are kidnapped, security agencies are at their best using new tactical methods to ensure that these kidnapped victims are brought back to their homes, to their families in safety.
The air component of Operation Wild Punch has destroyed terrorist Alajilai's enclave situated in Gofenshantu village in Giwa local government area of Kaduna State, where several terrorists observed within the location were eliminated. NAF's spokesperson, Edward Gapwek, says similar airstrikes conducted on 13th July 2024 over terrorist camp situated inside Malam Forest in the Gabi local government area also recorded positive outcomes after the targets were destroyed through precision airstrikes, which were initiated following credible human intelligence along with intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance operations. The Nigerian Air Force says through a multi-fold approach and working in synergy with surface forces, it will continue to dominate the battle space for the safety of Nigerians. And operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLA, have intercepted various quantities of cocaine and opioids concealed in soles of shoes, clothes and other items being shipped to the United States, United Kingdom and Cyprus via some courier firms in Lagos. Following credible intelligence, NDLA State intercepted a vehicle at Esan local government area. A 30-year-old man who was searched and found with custard containers where 3,000 pills of tramadol were buried in the custard powder. The People's Democratic Party has dissociated itself from a purported appeal filed at the Court of Appeal Potak Division. A statement issued in Abuja by the party's National Publicity Secretary, Debo Olugwagba, maintained that its national legal advisor never filed nor authorized any external solicitor to file same on his behalf. The purported appeal is challenging the order of the Rivers State High Court restraining the Chief Judge of Rivers State and the Clerk of the Rivers State House of Assembly from receiving or acting on any resolutions from the defected members of the state legislature. The PDP restates that only the national legal advisor of the party has the exclusive responsibility of conducting the litigation, prosecution and defense of cases on behalf of the party, including its organs, chapters and officials as expressly provided for in Section 42 of the PDP's constitution as amended in 2017. You apparently have heard about the saying that the rich also cry, but this time no one cries. But the #1 citizen of Nigeria went emotional as a stage play held to honor the late mother of the president, Abibatu Mogaji. The play, to celebrate her life, played up the motherhood, legacy and resilience of the late Iyaloja General.
My first toilet was on her lap, and my first ever bedroom was on her back. And I thank God for the gift that I had from her. And that gift is an enduring one. Character, determination, never to give up.
And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jume and Nyenre after the commercial break. Don't go away.
The federal government of Nigeria wants vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Did you know that a quarter of the world's deaths from malaria is in Nigeria? And the reason being a mosquito that spreads malaria, a disease that puts everyone's life in distress. We believe that protection and prevention is the best cure in the fight to end malaria. Mortein insecticide with its improved formulation kills 100% mosquitoes that spread malaria. So, spread the message of how we can fight to end malaria with Mortein. Mortein, our #1 choice.
Life no suppose and like this, and that's now why millions of Nigerians they pay for everything with mobile. Dial *671# or download the new mobile app, make you follow enjoy this better life.
TerraCube is available in beef, chicken, jollof and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 50, 100, 200 and 500 naira.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Give your child Bonvita.
water is there with
It contains essential vitamins and minerals that support mental and physical vitality. Bonvita. Prepare them to win every day.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we swing colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthened in unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
All right, good to have you back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And up next is newspaper review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli Ubaja, is seated in the studio looking... I can see you slept this weekend well.
Complete the sentence now. Or are you trying to manufacture things that are not? Sincerity is your second name. You better keep on it. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Hello.
Chukwudi.
Morning. How are you?
Very well. And
when
you?
your smile gets this broad, I get a little, you know.
Maybe she got some cool millions over the weekend.
Good to see you, ladies.
That's prayer.
Yeah, amen.
I hope it happens.
Good to see you.
Let me sip my coffee before we start talking. We're beginning with what, Yuri?
Okay, let's begin with the leadership newspaper quickly. Just looking at the front pages of the papers that we have and the lead stories on the papers. On the leadership this morning, we have here, stakeholders prefer stiffer penalties for drug abuse and trafficking. Writer says 14.3 million Nigerians abuse drugs, 10.5 million hooked on cannabis. Nigeria must wage a decisive war against drug abuse. According to the UN, NDLEA seizes 7.6 million kilograms of illicit substances. All of that on page 4 of the leadership. Away from that, we have just beside the picture story, local government polls. PDP wins all seats in Adamawa Delta. And that's on page 8. Below that, Samoa agreement. Ombudsman confirms federal government's compliance against daily trust. You want to get the update as regards Samoa agreement, or if you like, Samoa disagreement. All right. Away from that, quickly above the masthead, editors, media executives hold colloquium. All right. That's a bit not much of interest to us, but of course, update on the campaigns in the U.S. and the latest from the Biden and the Trump quarters. We have Biden orders independent review of Trump shooting that happened on Saturday, and looks like that's the much you can take. We have NNPC's stake in our refinery is 7.2%. That's according to Dangote. All right, you want to see that. Page 17 has all of that. All right, looking away quickly now from the leadership, let's see the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun leads with 2027. Battle for PDP's control shifts to states. Riders, opposition party picks 6 August 31 for state congresses. Crisis persists in Katsina, Rivers orders. And that's all on page 6 of the Daily Sun. Other stories here, we have, of course, Samoa agreement is also right here. You want to see that, page 27 will guide you. Women group wages campaign against Jacba syndrome. Page 27 has all of that. The NDLA report is also right here. And we have financial autonomy. Argon to monitor local government funds. 1CX scrapped. That's on page 6. So that's the much right here on the front page of the Daily Sun.
Yeah, let's quickly go to the Nigerian pilot. And just below the masthead, autonomy. We will track financial allocation to LG, says Nolgi. You find details on page 7. FG versus X. Court orders Lai Mohammed to disclose agreement details. You find the details on page 7. And the headlines in the Nigerian pilot: stop GMO foods now. With riders, experts react on alleged FG's approval of genetically modified maize amidst food crisis. Reveal FG has launched high-yielding varieties of maize to fight food insecurity. Says it is the worst decision any African country can take, and insists genetically modified food should have no place in any African diet. Find all the details on page 4. And Algon again tells Tinubu to empower INEC to conduct local government elections. Find the details on page 6. And at the bottom plate of the Nigerian pilot, NBA gives IG 7 days ultimatum to stop Central Motor Information System certificate issuance. You find the details on page 5. FG unveils integrated labor facility to tackle infectious diseases on page 6. Honorable Ginger on WCB's bill to create a Aba state passes first reading. Detail on page 4. Traditional medicine practitioners urged to register with Health Ministry. Details also on page 4. We will prioritize health sector in 2025 budget, Fubara tells World Health Organization. And Tinubu, world leaders react as Trump survived assassination attempt. All the details is on page 5. Chukuri.
Let us start with the GMO foods, alarm. I think GMO foods are already in the country. That's my opinion, but scientific facts are going to upstage opinion. When you see neatly arranged grain on cobs of corn and all that, different from what we used to see, definitely it's coming from a background.
Yes.
What is the halabaloo all about? They are saying that carcinogenic substances are in those
yes, genetically modified
GMO
yes.
Foods. GMO is actually genetically modified organism, which in turn affects the virility of whatever is applied to and all that. So what I say is, get the facts right. Well, thank God, this report is not attributed to any source.
No,
it is one of those investigations by newspapers.
Yes.
So let's take it with a pinch of salt. Till the federal government, for instance, comes out to say, look, this is the position, or reporters now take a mic to them and say what is happening.
Yeah.
So it's still something that is being debated in the open marketplace of argument.
We have so many debates raging,
of course,
on the public space.
So
actually,
there's nothing wrong. When I went to the US, definitely the oranges I saw were not natural oranges. Some would not even have seeds.
Seed, yes.
You understand? Then the banana will be so neat and long and all that, it's genetically modified. So if experts across the world still allow these things to happen, we should not, for just the fear of it, throw the baby out of the bathwater. Yeah. Let us establish the facts of it and even make sure that the federal government is bringing maize that is genetically modified into the country. It's always good to verify these stories before we begin to, get really ambitious about talking about them in reviews such as this. 2027, PDP, what are the battle for PDP's control shifts to states? Control by who? That's what I'm interested in. If it is by party bigwigs, stalwarts, that's not the kind of control we want.
Yeah.
The other time we're talking about internal party democracy and all that. Till we get to that level where one person does not dictate what happens to a party, we have not made it yet.
Yes.
Very important that we keep on moving towards that, stage, because only then will democracy flourish on our shores. Before you maybe pop in your own subject there, the shooting that
former President Trump
escaped from, it nipped his
ear.
right ear.
Yes.
There was actually blood streaking down to his upper lip and all that.
And that iconic picture.
Yes.
Raising his fist.
Yeah.
First of all, that should not happen in any situation at all. I don't even want to say in any democracy. It shouldn't happen in any situation in life at all.
Last time it happened, I think it was Reagan. Reagan was president then. Yes,
then
when he was
Reagan
shot,
told
yes.
Nancy, the wife, I refused to, I forgot to duck.
Dodge, yeah.
That man was even acting. The Trump matter is a very, very contentious matter. Even after he was shot at, he still uttered fight 3 times.
Yes.
So you don't know how to go about these things. Remember, his political party, the Republican Party, the Rifles Association of America, they are solidly supporting them and all that.
Yes.
One of the things America has to do first and foremost is to make it difficult to procure those arms. Do you mind the kind of arms that are sold to people?
Yes,
You
on
go
the
ask
streets.
yourself, then they go war. But thank God, Trump did not die.
Yes.
But somebody behind him actually
died.
stopped
Yes,
a bullet.
The bullet.
2 are critically injured.
Yes.
And our president has actually come out to condemn it. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
World leaders across the world, of course, are condemning it. But what is cause for concern and raising more talk about the assassination attempt is the fact that according to reports, the suspect had a 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, was a registered Republican.
Republican, yes. But they said he was borrowed to the Democrats.
I actually put that out on Facebook as soon as I saw it. So
and according to reports, this same person previously made a $15 donation to a political action committee that raises money for left-leaning and democratic politicians just at the age of 17.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to mental health issues. Yes. That a man is resplendently dressed the way Nyere is dressed now does not necessarily mean that his mind is completely intact.
Yes.
I keep on going back to mental health issues, probably because I have it in my family. It bothers me that we don't accord a lot of that. The state of mind of this man, if it was subjected to analysis by psychiatrists, they will tell you that the man actually had issues.
So you think it's not something planned in some quarters against Trump?
No, I don't think
so. The security agencies, they are already saying that he acted alone. They are already, it's a lone wolf kind of thing.
And during the Reagan issue, it was able to push his re-election, that singular, shooting.
Yes.
So I wonder what will happen to the Trump election. One will be watching, will be, listening to the analysts talk about it.
This is national television, and sometimes our voice will begin to sound like government voice. Yes. So let me not say my opinion about Trump.
Yeah.
Let's pray that Americans do not turn against one another.
And good news for local government autonomy. But one question I asked somebody was, don't you think the governors will sort of maneuver the money back to their account if it is delivered?
Of course, we had a conversation around that, and
there are so many loopholes in the African system. I am sorry, ladies. Anytime we talk about Nigeria, I take it to Africa. The things happening in this country happen almost in every other African nation.
Because of time.
Exactly.
We have to wrap this up.
Okay, so you begin to ask, what is it we are doing? What is it in the way we think and do things regard our society that impinge on smooth running of things to our benefit?
Well, we saw what happened in Kenya. The trend has begun.
The trend has begun.
By the way, over the weekend, local government polls held in 2 states, and the party at the center at the state actually took all the seats.
Of course, that's usual.
Yes.
So that's irregular.
Kenya is not a monolithic society, but it's not as pluralistic as the Nigerian
Nigerians,
situation.
yeah.
So they could do that over there, not here.
Thank you,
Chukudi,
Chukudi.
thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I called you ladies today, actually all gentlemen of the press.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the conversation. Stay with us.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when her nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, or pure love.
Did you know that a quarter of the world's deaths from malaria is in Nigeria? And the reason being a mosquito that spreads malaria, a disease that puts everyone's life in distress. We believe that protection and prevention is the best cure in the fight to end malaria. Mortein insecticide with its improved formulation kills 100% mosquitoes that spread malaria. So, spread the message of how we can fight to end malaria with Mortein. Mortein, our #1 choice.
We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bull Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bull Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
Bye, Mom. He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Isola, how could you think that I'll be over you? I'm sorry for the pain, apologies are overdue. But hurting you, baby, is something I would never do. But don't think that I forgot about that wedding ring.
Name the most popular musician in Nigeria.
Ashake.
Did you just call Ashake's name? It's funny, Ashake. I'm gonna swing on the chandelier, on the chandelier. I'm gonna...
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country that, God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
Join body with your football buddy, GoTV, for correct goals and action. Ha! Sharply reconnect on top GoTV Max with 7,200 naira to Torchlight La Liga, Serie A, Europa, and select Premier League games live on top Super Sport. GoTV, love it.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and to push the conversation, let's take this background report put together by Joseph Ose.
Month on month, inflation rates in Nigeria continues to increase. As at May 2024, the country's inflation went above 33.9% from 33.69% in April. Prices of goods are skyrocketing, with that of food items taking heavy toll on citizens. Many individuals and families are struggling to feed and cope with the economic situation. Though experts have blamed increase in transportation of goods to the high inflation, they suggested reopening of the country's borders for import of goods, especially foodstuff, to bring down prices. Indeed, the federal government has heeded to the advice by not just partially opening the borders, but also announcing suspension of duties, tariff, and taxes on essential food items imported through land and sea borders, such as maize, hoexbound rice, wheat, and cowpeas. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, who made the announcement at a press briefing in Abuja, says the imported food commodities will enjoy a 150-day duty-free import window and will be subjected to a recommended retail price. The minister opened up on government's concern over the food inflation, saying there are relentless efforts to address the food crisis. The federal government has launched the Presidential Accelerated Stabilization and Advancement Plan aimed at achieving food security and economic stability in the country. This move is part of the initiative, as the minister also disclosed that government would import 250 metric tons of wheat and 250 metric tons of maize to supply to small-scale processors and millers across the country. There are also interventions to support farmers scale up production during the 2024-2025 planting season and engage with relevant stakeholders for the purchase of surplus food commodities to restock the national strategic food reserves. The previous administration partially closed some Nigerian borders with neighboring countries to curb massive smuggle of food commodities, especially rice, and encourage local production for sustainability. The government paraded rice pyramids in different parts of the country, showcasing impact of the policy. But has the move really stopped smuggling and attained sufficiency in any of the crops produced in the country? If the reopening of the nation's borders and suspension of duties, tariffs, and taxes on import of food items the answer to the current food inflation confronting the country? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will examine the initiative and the impact on the nation's economy.
All right, many thanks, Joseph Watson, for that background. And now joining us to discuss the topic, which is the food import waiver. We have with us in the studio Dr. Ken Okoha, the President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Jume? Yeah, we also have joining us from Kaduna, a regular here, Professor Ishao Ango, Professor of Finance and Entrepreneurship and Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Kaduna State University. It's nice to have you join us again.
A pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians.
Mr. Ken, you know, I know how passionate you are about, you know, how Nigeria's economy goes up and down, and you've made a lot of suggestions. Like when we're here in May, you suggested something like this, and it seems you've been vindicated. But what was your reaction when you heard the announcement by Mr. President?
Well, I'm not sure I am here to talk about my vindication But I think it's important to drop that footnote that immediately I left the studio that day, I had the barrage of calls. People were bombarding me, asking me, why should I, make such a recommendation? Why should I say this on the national television? That government should, import food items and all of that. I tried to defend myself and I said, look, this is a position that any wise government must take. Else, politically, you find yourself swept over with, contestations, protestations, demonstrations, and all of that. And if government really wants to settle down and then think over the next steps, what you need to do is take an emergency step. And I think this window of 3 months, 150 days or thereabout, is a kind of emergency action which should be taken normally so that government should sit down wisely. But if we must have to tell ourselves the truth, we must also go back to the causative factors. Why are we where we are at this point? And that will make government not stay too long or longer than necessary on this particular window. Now, it will also help government to underscore what to do next so that people who are responsible do not sit down and think that we have arrived. And what are those causative factors that I must talk about? You look at the subsidy removal. What we are suffering today, whether anybody likes it or not, is unavailability of food. We don't have enough food. Let's tell ourselves the truth. And if we establish this, that's the reason why the reserves are empty. If you had enough food, government would, we wouldn't be talking about showcasing pyramid of rice and then the next day it is not there. We wouldn't be talking about government announcing palliatives of about 42,000 metric tons that are going to bring out for several months. Nobody has seen any grain of that rice. We wouldn't be talking about, government saying, oh, there is food, but, the problem is access. No, there is no food. And the third point is that we won't be talking about food inflation. And that's exactly what has brought us where we are today. Everybody is on his or her knees looking and sometimes begging for the food because it is not there. And therefore the price has just jumped. Price of commodities, food items essentially have just jumped so high, unaffordably. So this is where we are. And then if you look at other sectors, ancillary sectors, they have also been impacted upon. For instance, the transport sector. So my cry today is that the subsidy removal was not well thought out. It's important to remove subsidy. But before you remove it, there are certain things that you ought to have put in place. And today, what we are suffering from is as the result of the shocks on the economy, coupled with insecurity.
Dr. Okoha, you've made a valid point about the subsidy removal, but back to your point on food imports as being a wise decision. Some people have said it's a depressing, decision by the government. And of course, Dr. Adeshino, the president of the African Development Bank, over the weekend actually said that government should not be thinking about imports at this time. You can't think about import to stabilize prices. Instead, you should be thinking about how to improve food production and, do other things, in order to get your economy a bit stable. What are your thoughts about that statement?
I stand on my recommendation that what government has done is a perfect decision. What I have just said now is that window of importation is only going to create a space for government to think, sit down, think properly. Now, Look at our production cycle. Where we are right now is a farming season. People are moving into the farm. And you don't farm that day and, harvest that same day. No, there's still a window, maybe about 3 months now. In the next 3 months, maybe about September, October, November, you will now see, fresh yam, for instance, coming up. You will see rice coming up. Meals and over the country today don't have paddy to process. So how do you reconcile? How are you going to keep the population from this particular point to about 3, 4, 5 months? So the gestation period for these particular value chains have more than 4, 5 months. So this particular window is a time of rest. But I'm thinking also that whilst government is opening that window for importation, they shouldn't rest on their oars. The next point is to bombard, I use my word, bombard investments on production.
Okay.
Invest in agricultural production, in the selected value chains, especially those that you are importing, so that by the time that we are finishing what is available, there is harvest that will be coming up. And number 2, as the harvest is coming, you're also mopping up strategically so that the reserves will have something. You think like a Joseph in the Bible.
Well, a lot of people would also, counter what you're saying, that, we may not actually get to that point where there will be sufficient to even keep in the reserves. Again, don't forget the predictions by NIMET, flooding, insecurity in certain parts are still not gone, and all of that. So these are other factors that are affecting food production. But, let's quickly get to Professor Yushua Ango now. Dr. Ken Okoha has made this point here, but I want to find out what you think about this import in the first place. Some people say that it's not that there's scarcity at the moment. It's just the purchasing power that is just not there. Like rice is in the market, but you don't have 80,000 naira to buy. So that's actually the problem with it, at the moment. But I want to hear your thoughts, Professor Ango.
Well, as you remember, myself and Dr. Ken were on this program, and he actually suggested that there should be this measure, which is to import food from outside the country, and I actually disagree with that, if you remember. Now, I still disagree. I believe, just like you said, your last statement, that there is food, but it's affordability that is the problem. And I remember your colleague then saying, how can you say there is food when it's not affordable? Now, let's look at this thing in context. First of all, yes, food inflation is a major concern. Food security is a major concern, and any nation worth its name should try to ensure that it has food security. And I believe that is more important. And I remember we also discussed during that program in May about the fact that, yes, 42,000 or so metric tons was going to be distributed by government. And in my opinion, such distribution must have taken place because at some point prices stagnated, so that there must have been an impact. The only problem is that the impact is too little, too late. It was not sufficient, to actually make a major impact on the market. I like the various measures that have been proposed because withdrawal of duty or suspension of duty for 5 months is only one of the measures. There are many other measures. The only problem again with that, for example, there is the suggestion even made by Dr. Ken, which was taken care of in terms of policy pronouncement, that there should be massive, injection of resources, maybe for this season, to ensure that we have, the production for this season, 2024-2025, increases sufficiently, to address or at least to cover the gaps that have been observed. Now, but in reality, the season had, in fact, is more than midway as we speak, you know, because I have told you over and over that I'm a farmer myself. Even yesterday I was in my farm. So I know that the season, it's almost too late now for government to do anything, you know, for this season. I mean, for example, if you are to give farmers fertilizer, most farmers have already, except in the far north probably, most farmers have already applied their first or second cycle of fertilizer. Perhaps if there's anything left, it may be one more for depending on crop. So, and again, Dr. Ken was talking about harvest. You know, of course, for many commodities, harvest time will be in October or November. You know, that you are talking about corn, you know, especially Guinea corn, some variants of rice, but some are already being harvested as we speak. Yesterday I bought sweet potato, for example. That was this year's crop. So what is going to happen is that between this month ending and August, you know, for many parts, especially in the middle belt, there will be a lot of harvest, you know, especially for root crops. They will start harvesting for maize, for rice, you know, they will start harvesting. For some of us in the northwest, already, I'm sure by that time, some of these commodities will become available. So market will adjust itself gradually. But I want to emphasize why I object, you know, naturally to import as a solution. I mean, of course, if import is going to be a medium or a major, you know, to suppress or reduce prices, no problem with that. Because in fact, sometimes even making the pronouncement will now affect the market. I don't know what will happen, but I'm sure by this coming Wednesday, when it will be market day in Makaripima, where I come from, which is probably one of the largest weekly markets, I'm sure there may be some adjustment. You will see some adjustment in the prices, probably going down. Why? Because such pronouncements have been made. Why why I made the claim then in May that we have food, is only that is affordability that is the problem, is because you will never go to the market and that you find that there is no food. No, it's the prices that were the issue. The prices of these goods were the issue. I'm happy that part of what government wants to do, from what they said, is that they want to guarantee a kind of minimum price, you know, recommended price. I don't know what the mechanism they will adopt to ensure that there is a minimum price, but I will suggest that if anything, perhaps it would have been even better for government, you know, instead of opening this window, it would have been better for government to actually quietly import what they say they are going to import, 250,000 metric tons of maize and 250,000 metric tons of wheat, and then make these available, you know, like they said, especially to some millers, you know, that will affect the price. That will affect the market price, naturally. I remember 2 years, is it, or less than 2 years ago, during the former government, when they did a display, you know, of this, what they are talking about the rice pyramids and maize pyramids. There was a maize pyramid in Kaduna here, and that affected price. That made price to stagnate, because why? Speculators, people who have bought these things, you know, waiting for prices to rise, realize that there is a lot of capacity on the side of government, and therefore prices came down. So by mere pronouncement that, for example, government will import this quantum that they say they are going to import, we are talking about 500,000 metric tons in all, alone, that will have affected prices. And I'm sure if we had been a little bit patient, you know, with the way the market works, in the next 1 month, prices will have started coming down. Prices will come down naturally. I don't think, you know, for food security, I mean, open-ended import is a solution. It's never a solution in the long term, and in that I agree with the president of the African Development Bank.
Yeah, Prof, thank you so much for your opening comments here, and we're also being joined now in the studio by an economist, Yushau Aliu, a regular also on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Good morning. I could see you shaking your head, you know, while the prof was making some of the statements he's making. And, you know, people say that, you know, this is a good move. It will sort of mitigate against, you know, the inflation rate of food items, and that has impacted so many homes in Nigeria. I believe all homes in Nigeria can feel the pinch of what is going on. Now, 150 days can fly before you know it, it's over. That's 6 months actually. We're in December recently and now we're in July. And they say the suspension is for 150 days. What happens when the imported grains are exhausted? And from the climate report from NIMET, a lot of flood is coming our way this year too. What happens after that? Will the window be extended?
Before you extend the date, I personally want to acknowledge and then congratulate President Tinubu for opening the border and for allowing duty-free goods to come into Nigeria. I am happy that Professor Ango mentioned that it is too late to make any input for this agricultural season, which invariably will affect prices in the future, will affect production in the future, because there is no way a 50 kilogram of fertilizer costing 40,000 and you expect a farmer to come and sell you at a low price. That is not obtainable at all. Two things is this. Now we have had good 8 years without importation and prices were seemingly going upward. It has not yielded the production capacity that Nigeria was looking for, because there are a lot of structural challenges to agricultural production. Flooding is one. In 2018, over 40% of rice cultivated in Nigeria was washed away by flooding. How do you close that gap? I have said it times that number. If we don't look at the population, if we don't look into, I disagree with anybody that say we have sufficient food for two reasons. One, in any community you are, let every household has purchasing power to go to market. You will not see that food again. All the food that you see. And speculators also are not helping matters. Even when Professor Akinwumi was faulting the federal government, I remember he was Minister of Agriculture during Goodluck Jonathan. There was a percentage of import. That percentage of import is just to augment the domestic capacity need. And that is why price was stable at that period. But since we removed that temporary measures which are augmenting our production, bandits chase away farmers. Flooding took away what we produce. Not only that, a lot of incentives that are targeted for agriculture in trillions disappeared without going to agriculture during Buhari administration. So now, from experience, Professor Ango mentioned that food is coming from the Middle Belt. Middle Belt starts from Abuja and Nasarawa State. On Saturday, I followed from Abuja to Kefi. There was a place, market, in between Akwanga and Lafia. Whoever that is boarding that road knew that you can have any volume of yam at that point. It was empty. How can somebody tell me that we have sufficient food? Professor has forgot a lot of issues. There is a farm in Nasarawa in Doma that are cultivating rice, but they are exporting it. There are rice production centers in many parts of Nigeria, but they are being exported. Our cassava is exported. Our ginger is exported. So, all this export is creating shortages in the local markets. And now speculators, because they are guaranteed, they have tested in 2015-16 that the border is closed, and then speculators emerge. Where he is coming from, Makarfi, there are speculators that are buying and hoarding. In Giwa, there are people that are buying and hoarding. In Kano, there are two centers, they are buying and hoarding. In Saminaka, I was there. There are stores where they are hoarding. All these are speculators, and they are taking advantage. Let me be precise. All economic principles are under assumptions. If those assumptions are not met, don't go to protectionism. You are just protecting. Who are you to protect when the entire nation is telling you that they are hungry and you are saying there is food? Where is the food? Look, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must be commended for taking this bold step. I am from the north. Let me learn this issue, because it's an issue that is affecting general price level. How can a rice that is produced at 40,000 naira for 50 kilogram of fertilizer, that is one input, transport cost, other insecticides, pesticide, whatever, even the cost of hiring land has doubled. Yes. Do you understand? Yes. So the price of 50 kilogram production of rice produced in Nigeria is above 70,000. I bought one recently. Look, we have a mill, hold the internet, hold the rice. Right, last week I was in Federal Ministry of Finance trying to clear goods that we import, boilers, for us to continue production. There is no paddy. All this expansion we want to make, there is no paddy. So there is need to understand the concept of food security in relation to price, the concept of food security in relation to affordability, the concept of food security for the life of the nation. Because who are you protecting? Are you protecting agri sector, or you are protecting the Nigerians in this manner? These are issues that are clear.
So many issues usually you have raised, but of course, listening to the president of the African Development Bank, and of course quoting him, he says that it's only when you produce that you can reduce pressure on the foreign exchange and create jobs. Now, with this importation, how does that affect that? And then I would like you to also speak concerning the dry season farming, which was much publicized last year.
Then we are only producing less than 10%.
So are you saying the country lacks capacity to produce?
We lack capacity. Former Minister of Agriculture, Audu Ogbe, we have 90 million arable land. Less than 5% is older cultivation. And for the ADF chairman, Africa Development Bank chairman, why don't he advise government on importing PMS? Why are we importing? They have spent several years. What effort have they made to assist Nigeria to produce PMS, which is a major determiner of all prices in this economy? I am calling on Akinwumi to look into our own productive capacity from what the economy always remain. Let us be frank. The governors, the state governors, the presidency, that the federal government and the local government are all waiting for revenue from crude oil, but we are not refining. And African Development Bank has not for once told Nigerians what we are losing from sourcing the exchange rate, not only sourcing the exchange rate, spending over 20 billion in maintaining moribund refineries. These are the challenges that have crippled the economy, crippled the consumers. Who are these consumers? Let us be precise. I am very passionate in Nigerians. I was a farmer. Whoever knows Galemo Farms Limited in the 80s, we produce more than 5,000 bags of maize. We don't pack them. We leave them in bare flow until market comes. Why? Because there are incentives. Agric was used to pay my school fees. No. I am passionate on agriculture. I want agriculture to be protected, but there should be the right measures to develop our agriculture. But in the meantime, as you rightly pointed out, we need to stabilize prices. CBN fails. Dangote cried. I have been crying for NPR for over 5 years. In this program, Professor Biden, I wanted to even question my integrity of understanding economics when I was debunking the sporadic increase in NPR. In days, 90 days, or in 30 days, you increase by 400 basis. This is not helping growth at all. But let me answer you. What comes after 150 days? It depends on the efficiency of the Federal Ministry of Finance, the efficiency of the Custom and Excise, the efficiency of Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and the watch list by Mr. President and his coordinator in watching the efficiency, because there is no any magic. Nigerians don't have food, because if you don't have money, look, in economics we are always talking about effective demand. When demand is mentioned, we are speaking about effective. That is demand that is backed by the ability to pay. if sample is going to make micro sample here, people in the studio are looking for breakfast, all of us.
Yeah.
Then people that are also listening are also looking for breakfast every day. So what are we talking about? The president has taken the bold step. We are protecting the Nigerians first before protecting any industry, because we failed to protect the major income earner of the economy, which is petroleum sector, by producing locally. That will solve a lot of issues.
Oh, Isha, you've raised a wide range of issues here, and I can understand your passion, you know, being a farmer and knowing how it was then and how it is now. Mr. Kenukoa, Mr. Yusha Aliu said that food security for the life of the nation. That means the life of the nation depends on this waiver that the president has said it is going to happen in the next 6 months. But still, analysts are saying that this is not enough. Something else must be done. What do you think?
Okay. Now, I'm so happy that at least I have a voice who understands that food is not available, that we are deceiving ourselves. If food is available, price. Anybody who read economics would understand that this is a simple theory. If food is available, the price will crash. But this time, and I'm happy he gave instances. Take a drive to Niger State. Along that road, you will see yam tubers everywhere. You see tomato, you will see
pepper
and all of that. Do you know, was it last 2 weeks or so, I traveled to Mina. We were stopping from one point to another. All those kiosks and all of that by the roadside where they used to, sell yams, not even one tuber of yam did I see to buy. I have these women who go to Lambata to buy. Many of them came back empty. Is it that I was asking, look, why didn't you buy? They said, no, they didn't even see. Some of them stayed for 2 days. I had to come back. Who's saying that food is available? It's not. Now, coming back to what the government has done and what the government should do. I also think that now that the federal government has taken this decision, let's understand that this is just an emergency window. We are not saying that this is going to continue. No! It's a measure. It's even allowed in the WTO, concept. You open the window and then you create what they call quota. A measure, and then use tariff to back it up. And that's exactly what they are trying to do. The government has tried to do. Import and then create some waiver window on the tariff to support that, so that lives of people first will be assured, will be guaranteed, while you are now looking at other options. And I know you are itching to say something, but just a moment. The second thing is now to look at the control measures. I spoke earlier about government settling down, creating this particular measure, but then the control measures are now in the hands of implementers of policies. And this is enforcement.
That's something else I want you to explain.
Where the customs are, the customs, you have a responsibility now. This is government policy. It's a directive. Can we have the assurance that customs will let go these goods and not create impediments?
Yes.
Bottlenecks.
Not create bottlenecks over there that will put a clog in the wheel of the entire process. And then we'll go back to square zero.
What about the demand for forex?
Number two, that's where I'm coming to. Can we have a CBN that will now look at this window and say, look, now that government has made this pronouncement, we need to support it up. We need to back it up with the funding window, the forex window. so that anyone who is
importing
must have express access to forex. Number 3, can we have the state governments who will not sit down like emperors and wait for Abuja money and now begin to look at the window of putting investment now that this one is coming? Because this, what the president has done for now, I'm not a fan of Mr. President. I mean, I make it clear. But what he has done is looking at the future and the stability of his government. Anybody who is advising him, otherwise, is trying to risk coup. Because people are crying already. I'm sure you hear every day. People are weak. People are tired. People are hungry. And they're saying it out. It is not there. It's not there. You don't have the money and you don't have the food. So what next should be done is that the governors must now begin to invest more in agriculture. Don't wait for the federal government.
Like the Niger State governor is doing.
Look at what the Niger State governor is doing. Yes. Look at what the project. I'm a member of the team set up by the Niger State government on what they call AVADEP, Agricultural Value Chain Development Project. In fact, I was with the permanent secretary a few days back, and we were talking about insurance. The mentioned issue about, the subject of flood. Yeah. We're now bringing insurance into the system so that whatever they are investing is guaranteed. Insurance. So that if anything, flood comes in, anything.
Yeah,
and the man is, pushing about 10,000 hectares of cultivation in every local government.
Dr. Ken,
how do
you see that initiative by the Niger State government is what some people say should be the way out of this situation.
That's the way.
And not import. I'll say that. And of course, I want to quote the president of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN. He said that food importation would erode the gains made in rice, maize, and wheat production, while the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, also reacted to the policy by the government, stating that the federal government should encourage rice farmers rather than imports. Now, my question is going to Professor Yushua Ango, who joins us all the way from Kaduna. Dr. Ken says that if there is food, prices will crash. But again, Dr. Ken also mentioned that there are other factors that affect how this food, gets to the consumer's table. I mean, we have production costs, for example. We have transportation costs. You have the foreign exchange at the moment, as it stands. All these are factors.
And you have to pay your workers.
Exactly, you pay workers. That determines the price of a commodity on the table of a consumer. So do you agree with all the comments made so far in the studio?
My position is clear. I don't want us to have, something that is not sustainable. I want something that is sustainable. And then we have, luckily with this panelist, we have met many times on this program. And I want to say that I also know that, in terms of populism, my views, if you have to put them to vote, the average Nigerian, will vote against me on this matter. But, to assure you, especially let's look at even the comments made earlier, especially by my panel, my friends here. Now, one of them, was that they have gone around. Somebody has gone to Niger, somebody has gone to Nasarawa State, and they didn't see yam where they usually you see a lot of yam. And of course, my namesake, Yusha, said he was a farmer, some years back. Obviously that means he's not a farmer now. You'll not see this kind of crops when it is not the season. It's natural. It's not the season. Wait 1 month, 2 months. You go to those places, you'll see a lot of it. Now, I know there is a lot of challenge, and I know that there is so much inflation in the country, and and of course the first thing, and we have also analyzed inflation on this program, and food-related inflation is high, and so it's a concern, and you have to eat, to survive. It's a concern. But my viewpoint is looking at sustainability, is looking at the long term, looking at food security. It's more important than anything. What prices? Everything has doubled, quadrupled, in fact. How much? Yesterday somebody was buying in my presence, what they call pure water. which used to cost 5 naira, is now 20 naira, 4 times. That is the price of everything. That's what has happened to everything. It's not only food. Everything, the prices have gone up. The income level of average Nigerian did not increase. So naturally, there will be a concern. And the first concern naturally is about food. I understand that perfectly. And I also said that I don't think importation is a solution. But even if importation is going to be done, it should have been limited to what government said they are going to import. They don't have to open the wide gate open. Now, in the process, the problem is that you can have a temporary solution. You can have a temporary solution, even by making this pronouncement. I told you, prices will come down. Why? Because speculators who have actually these commodities stocked in their various warehouses will now bring them out because they are afraid, prices. There will be, this window will now bring a lot of things from outside, and then some producers, like manufacturers who can afford to wait a little bit, and not come to the market to buy. So that will naturally affect prices. But by and large, what I'm promoting, I believe what also Dr. Akinwumi is promoting is food sufficiency. We are over 200 million now. So the projection is that by 2050 we should be about 450 or so. If we don't learn, to actually feed ourselves, if we don't take measures that will ensure that we feed ourselves, we are going in for a lot of consequences. I've said it on this program that I didn't put it clearly, but some of them will be, once we become beggars, in terms of food, then all sorts of conditions will be put on us. And incidentally, of recent, there was a lot of debate about LGBT. That's the kind of things I'm talking about. Somebody will give you food and say, accept food only on so conditions. So number one thing we should do as a country, sustainably, I'm talking about long term, is to ensure that we are able to feed ourselves. That is most important. But I assure you, prices of everything had quadrupled. Some of them 10 times, some of them 6 times. It's not only food items that have increased, but naturally the first one that everybody will look at is food. It's understandable. But I also said that aside from the import, there are many other measures which were pronounced by the Minister of Agri. Those measures are useful, but it requires commitment. Like for example, working together with the state governments, to ensure that they improve irrigation is one of them. They said they want to ensure that they can improve irrigation, and then they want to work with the armed forces, for example, to ensure that there is an arrangement whereby they want to see that the armed forces are given land, so that and other paramilitary organizations will also be approached. Everything we need to do to ensure that we are able to feed ourselves is desirable. And like Dr. Ken said, I agree with him in this, that whatever is being said about import is a temporary measure. But that is not what Isho is saying, that we should stop importation of PMS if we are going to support importation of food. What I'm proposing is something that will ensure that as a country we are able to feed ourselves. India, with all its population, is now number one. It has overtaken China slightly. India exports food. Now China is not importing food. And we're talking about borders. Borders have been opened long ago. And we have said, even when borders were closed, on these programs earlier, even when borders were closed, trade was taking place, between our neighbors and us, especially in food-related items. The one that was really, that the government sustained something about was rice. Even that one was being smuggled somewhat. Now, I am looking at various measures, and I'm saying that among some of those measures that have been propounded, some of them will not be possible for this season. And even the import, what we are going to see the impact in the next 1 month, in the next 1 week, in the next 2 months, will be impact that is related to just the pronouncement, and then impact that is affected, that will be affected by the fact that harvest for some products have started. That is the impact we are going to see. Otherwise, how long does it take, to import? From the time you make the pronouncement, how long do you think the cycle, between when you open the letter of credit and when the goods come in? By the time the goods come in 5 months, it will be actually all of these commodities will have been a lot in the market. I think what also was being propounded, and I like that by Dr. Ken, is that we should try to develop our capacity, especially our silos, our storage capacity. Government should ensure that instead of, because I'm sure when they gave that 42,000 metric tons, that is all they had probably. Now, of course, we had capacity for our food storage capacity is over 1 million metric tons. So that means we cannot attain that in this season, but then government should gradually build and ensure that they have that as a matter of stabilizing prices. But whatever measure we do that is temporary, we may have a relief temporarily, but it will not be a solution. And I'm not propounding this just protecting an industry. I'm saying that even for farmers, if you don't protect them, next year they don't have to farm. I know that because I'm still a farmer. I'm a farmer. Even yesterday, like I told you, I was in my farm. I know that people have come back because they saw that, like Yusha said, the cost of fertilizer, for example, is 40-something thousand. Now, with that, if a fertilizer can give you 1 bag, and then the bag is selling at 20-30,000, you will not be motivated to go and produce. So what we should do is to protect this market, because if there's any market that needs to be protected, it's the farmer. If you don't protect the farmer will not go to the farm. And if the farmer doesn't go to the farm, you think you have all the foreign exchange, you have all the money to import. You think for a population of 250 million or 230 million, also a population that has the potential to become 400 and something million, we should depend on importation? I don't think that is. So as passionate as anybody can be, I am telling you that in reality, the pronouncement will just affect the market, but it's not the best option. Importation is not the best option. If you are going to open the window, then government should import itself and then sell directly to some of these users, especially the major millers, so that will dampen but any measure that you do that will discourage the farmer from farming is not in the best interest of this country. That's what I'm saying.
So, Ango, we seem to have conflicting, to this topic. Usually, we have another topic that we're going to talk about, so time is sort of running out. What other interventions do you think the government should implement to aid, and scale up production during the 2024-2025 farming season?
The cost of input is very, very important. Let me make it clear. I am for Nigeria to make production, but the current economic crisis has to be managed best for the nation. Professor Ango, I want you to understand that food inflation, you mentioned prices quadruple in all sectors, in all goods and services. But I want to inform you that food inflation is the highest, above 44%. So why are we producing and then has high inflation? What is wrong with our principle of demand and supply? I am of the opinion that government, President Tinubu has taken the right decision for now, and it is for 150 days. Nobody is discouraging farmer because all farmers are already in the field and they must bring out their goods. Now, for 2025 agri season, there should be good plan in our appropriation, both federal, state, and local government, like advocated by Dr. Ken. And not only that, we are passionate about this nation. We must produce what we eat. Professor Angu, I'm a farmer, but not in the farm. I said in this program, I was in the Federal Ministry of Finance, IDEC office, to get clearance to import boilers for rice. Do you understand? Yeah. So it is important to understand that it is our sector. We want it to grow. We are eating from it, and we want it to, and we want every Nigerian to uphold what we are producing.
Thank you so much, Professor. Yusha Aliyu, an economist. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Because of time, we're about rounding off. So I'd just like Dr. Ken Okoha to just make your last comments in 30 seconds, really. He rounded off by saying that, of course, we're going to get harvest soon. But the question will be, what would the prices be like, even when it is harvest season? But your final thoughts?
My final thought is that if anybody looks at what happened during the past 8 years of the Buhari administration, you will understand why the decision to open an emergency temporal window for import of food
is the right step.
And finally, the parliament must also get up. I've not seen the parliament getting up to these issues so that our food security would become a major issue on the table at the parliament.
Okay, Dr. Ken Okoha, thank you. President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. As usual, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
Yishao Aliu, well,
Thank you very much.
yes, you came in a little bit late, but your contributions is deeply appreciated. Professor Yishao Ango, Professor of Finance and Entrepreneurship and Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Kaduna State University. Thank you so much for your input. Take a break now. We'll be right back.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Bye, Mom. He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Meet lovebirds Jayola and Adama Davies. Their dream of living together as man and wife has finally been fulfilled.
The latest couple in town, Mr. and Mrs. Jaye Davis!
But an invasion by their troublesome families was not a scenario they bargained for. Her mother moves in. His mother shows up with his little niece. Then her younger sister joins the scramble.
You want to stay?
Married life suddenly becomes very complicated even before it started. Follow their story on this channel as they confront every challenge as it comes. Family forever, the story of our lives.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And second conversation, of course, is around the African Natural Resource and Energy Investment Summit. And as you know, to harness Africa's vast natural resources in a sustainable manner, driving economic growth and fostering the development of cleaner and reliable energy sources is a mandate which Nigeria is taking seriously.
And the African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit, AFNIS 2024, is an avenue for such expression. It is the initiative of Core International Mining Company in collaboration with the federal government of Nigeria.
Now, AFNIS 2024 is not merely a gathering of minds, but a convergence of visionaries committed to transforming Africa's natural resource landscape. And so we have joining us now to discuss this and the prospects that it holds for our dear country. We have Moses Ngadu, the Secretary General, African Mineral Strategy Group. Many thanks and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you and good morning Nigeria. It's a pleasure being here and joining this wonderful engagement, as well as looking at what minerals and natural resources hold for our continent. It's trying to see how do we move beyond the promise
Land.
To actually achieve.
Okay. We also have Suleiman Zakari. He's the managing partner, Core International. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
All right, so let's begin. Of course, we want to know what AFNIS is really about. So, Suleiman Zakari, could you tell us what is the aim for AFNIS?
Okay, I mean, you summed it up quite nicely in your intro. So AFNIS stands for the African Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit. So it's a platform that aims to bring different sectors together under one roof, under one platform, to chart a way forward for our sustainable development of our natural resource and energy sectors. So,
yeah. You know, let's bring in Mr. Moses into the conversation. You've set the pace for it. You know, the Ministry of Mines and Solid Minerals have constantly said that Nigeria is losing a lot. A lot is being lost to maybe illegal mining, so many things happening around the corner itself. So, what does it aim to achieve with this event, and why is the ministry partnering the core itself, you know, coming together to find or provide solutions to the escalating loss of, you know, wealth to illegal mining and all that?
I think we can all agree that Nigeria and Africa are blessed with vast minerals, but more than oftentimes this has not really translated to maximum benefit, especially for our country, but also for the people and the communities. And it begins with, I know we all focus on elements like, you know, illegal mining and all that, but there is even a much more bigger challenge, which is the exportation of raw, you know, minerals. You know, because we are built around a pit-to-port model, we are actually exporting jobs. And we are losing out on industrialization. And I want to appreciate the ministry led by, you know, Dr. Alake, because we have been championing the aspect of local value addition and looking at how do we turn our minerals and maximally benefit from them. And they have also been doing a great job in trying to address some of the local challenges, especially things like illegal mining, by creating an enabling environment. So this summit is really looking at how do we take these lessons that we are learning from not only Nigeria, but from across Africa, to actually be able to maximize the benefit that we get from this. It's also about, and what's fascinating about it is, how do we do it together? How do we collaborate? What's working here? How does it help other jurisdictions? What is working somewhere else? How do we bring it to be able to work here? And it's fantastic that the summit is bringing together lots of governments, you know, but we're not only talking about government, we're talking about the private sector, you know, the key drivers of this. And for us, from where I stand from, it's a strategic public-private partnership, and we thank the ministry for being able to drive this, but not only be driving alone, you know, be able to work with Core International plus other partners to make this happen.
Thank you, Moses. Of course, the Ministry of Solid Minerals is in the forefront of changing the narrative, you know, as far as natural resources are concerned. And of course, we've seen a lot of policies coming out, you know, from the ministry. But I'd like to get to you, Zachary, now. The theme for this particular event, I can say it's natural resources for economic development. And looking at the situation of Nigeria at the moment, we need this economic development like yesterday. So how can we leverage in this?
Okay, so natural resources for economic development is not a new theme, but what we're doing with this summit is highlighting the actual benefits that we have. For example, the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development are trying to push the narrative of local value addition beneficiation. Because if you look at it, what we export, raw materials, does not benefit the whole economy, the whole nation. We tend to lose almost up to 80% of true value. And I remember one of the stories we're having yesterday over tea was that the president of Uganda once mentioned Africa exports what it doesn't need, but imports everything it needs. So it's time to change that narrative to start creating what we need internally by harnessing our natural resources.
You know, I first became aware of, you know, tapping the way our natural resources is being tapped, you know, by, we call them shadow backers who sort of sponsor those that take it away. We take away the raw materials and then they bring in the refined materials, we buy it at a very exorbitant price. How can we leverage on ourselves as a country doing the production and selling it inwards or even exporting it?
Well, that goes to having more local participation. So one of the key things of the summit is we're bringing people from the power sector, from the petroleum sector, to look at opportunities in the mining sector so that they can partner. So only by changing that narrative that we can't grow internally, naturally, so we lose a lot of value if we depend on outside sources to develop. But if we take local ownership of our resources, then we get the maximum benefit from that.
But we cannot operate in isolation too.
We can't. But it's a Pan-African view with AFNIS.
Now, you talked about the Ministry of Solid Development partner with other ministries. Besides the Ministry of Power, which other ministries are involved in this?
Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, Nigerian Customs, Nigerian Immigration Service. So it's a whole united
why
front.
is that? Why is that? Why are you having, you know, this collaboration with other ministries? Because, you know, what is the benefit?
So it's because of collaboration. It's very important. You cannot build in isolation, as your colleague mentioned. So what we're trying to do is come up with a strategic plan that harnesses all the strengths of all the different ministries to harness the mining sector. Because not just because we're partnering with the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, I truly believe the mining sector is the most important sector that we have because of all the natural resources or all the minerals that it provides. For example, what we're looking at right now, the glass, the TVs, it's all coming from silica sand.
Yes.
The building we are here, cement, coal. So that's why if we can tap into the mining sector, we'll do great in Nigeria.
The huge potential that is abound in the mining sector. Let's bring in Mr. Ngadu into the conversation. So how does AFNIS differ from other events that we've been seeing, you know, on the mining sector? How does it differ from what is obtained?
Yeah, I think for starters, AFNIS is a cause. You know,
is a cause?
Yes, because it's trying to point us to saying Africans' problems, we must provide the solutions as Africans. We cannot wait for this magic ball to keep dropping from outside. But more importantly, it's a platform for action-oriented dialogues. And within the AFNIS Summit, we have, for example, a ministerial roundtable, and where we are bringing ministers from across the continent to actually be able to come and see how do we champion the cause of not just sustainable minerals, but how does that fuel, you know, the economic development that we have as a continent. And we're trying to say, can we move from talk to action? You know, we have lots of these events, lots of these conferences. What commitments, what key recommendations are coming out of here, and how do we get the players to actually start acting on them? All the things that we've highlighted here, how do we get the best value? You know, we are in a state, for example, where there's a new scramble for Africa's minerals, especially around energy transition. So the Africa Mineral Strategy Group was founded by Nigeria and 15 other African countries to essentially facilitate the international cooperation within the minerals and mining sector. And it's anchored on sustainable minerals, how do we exploit them, but then while protecting the environment and improving the quality of life of our people. So you'll see these themes, you know, these undertones working throughout the AFNIS Summit. You know, you have the minerals, the environment, and the people. That's what achieves sustainable, you know, development of our natural resources. So this is going to be different because it's not going to end at the State House Conference Center. You know, we're going
to say action.
We're going to go to the action, and we should be able to hold each other accountable, be transparent, and so that when we come back next year, we at least have some change.
All right, talking about some change, I know that this is the third edition of AFNIS. Yes. Could you tell us about the success story of the first and the second editions, and then what makes, why should anyone be looking forward to attending AFNIS this year?
Okay, so basically this is the third edition, as you correctly said. We're doing things a bit differently. The first edition is more to create awareness of what we're trying to achieve. So for example, during the first edition, one of the success stories was that we had a Gambian delegation come to Nigeria. And what they wanted to do is learn how the Nigerian petroleum sector was developed, because they're trying to develop their own their sector as well. So that's one of the key areas of cross-border collaboration between governments. Now the third edition is more towards actionable delivery, where we have a deal-making platform where we present opportunities to investors, to also other key players in the sector, to harness, to help them develop their projects in a sustainable manner. And that is something that we are doing all year round, not just at this summit. Like Mr. Ngandu mentioned, AFNIS is more of a cause rather than a summit in isolation.
So it's some people call it a reawakening for Africa. So where does the African Continental Free Trade Agreement come into what you're doing now? What is the collaboration going to be? You said Nigeria and 16 other countries signed this one, so how can it impact trade in Africa?
Okay, so the African Free Trade Continental Agreement is not going to be impactful unless there's industrialization. So that's one of the key things that we're talking about in AFNIS is how do we industrialize? How do we harness the natural resources that we have? A story that I have is there's countries that are in the G20, G7 that don't have natural resources, but they built their economy based on African natural resources. So why can't we do that? So that is what we're trying to highlight during AFNIS.
All right, great. Of course, everyone should be looking forward to attending AFNIS. You're going to tell us how we can do that much later. But I want to find out from Moses Ngadu, African Mineral Strategy Group. You're the Secretary General. Talk to us a bit about what this group is doing at the moment and what the future looks like.
So really what we're trying to do is to be a shield, because we know traditionally what is happening is that we have a certain imbalance and undue influences within the minerals and mining sector, whether it means negotiating, agreements or even selling, what we have as a continent. So what we're trying to do is to champion a common voice, a common agenda, so that when we go to the table, we can attract some sense of respect. We could say that we're trying to get away from the exploitation to the kind of development that is driven and shaped by us who actually have a lot of minerals. As Zachary was talking about, you have countries without minerals but getting the most benefit. And that's because you have the upstream, which is where the producers, where most African countries are. And then you have the midstream, the people that process and let's call them the middlemen or the brokers. And then you have the downstream. Oftentimes the downstream is things like our watches, our iPhones, our cameras. We never get to see them in this conversation. We only deal with the unfairness in terms of how the transaction process is. So what we are achieving through these engagements is to make sure that we set conversations and the narrative and what we want to be able to take home as part of and parcel of the conversation of how do we maximally benefit from our natural resources. We know that these resources have been with us, and we thank God that the more they plunder, the more we get more.
Yes, the more we get.
The more we get, but then we should stop. The time should be now. Yesterday I was in the Discovery Museum in a fantastic place, and one of the literatures that we study in our curriculum in Uganda, where I come from, is Things Fall Apart. Surely, should things continue to fall apart? We think that AFNIS should be the starting point, and they would like to, invite the whole of Nigeria, because the model we build here should be replicated and should be able to implement in other places. So our duty is really to say, what's working in Nigeria? Can it work in Malawi? Okay, we are built around a few essential objectives, and the first one for me is collaboration. We don't have that a lot on the continent. Can we
and why is that?
Well, some are historical in terms of how we were shaped. You know, we were a one people. And you see, the minerals demonstrate this. They don't know the borders. The
True.
geology does not know the borders. But because we had these borders first physically, but now we have them mentally, you know, when I go out and I'm speaking to the strategic partners and, you know, promoting Africa,
They
if
ask
I
you, where
say
you from?
I come from Nigeria, they'll never understand me. I have to say Nigeria, Africa.
Yes.
So the moment they say, oh, Africa, you know, so eventually
Because
we
they
are
believe
one
Africa
people.
is just a state.
Yes, Africa is a state.
It's a state.
Africa is one.
Yes.
So why shouldn't we embrace Africa is one? And that's why we need the collaboration. We have very interesting scenarios where you have an investor in one African country, and then he goes to another country and is telling them they are being given a lot of benefits, where, you know, it's a negotiating tactic. But then that minister does not have sort of like a connection to call this one to say, can you verify for me? Are these people lying? Are you really giving this? So collaboration is really very essential. Resource sharing is another. Most of the other African countries are discovering, for instance, oil and gas. Nigeria has been there for long. You know, should we make them make the same mistakes that we did? Or should we share with them and say this
so they don't make the mistakes.
Exactly.
So how can that impact the value chain in the solid mineral sector?
Really, there are about 6 enablers that can actually address the whole aspect of the value chain. One that we all struggle with is access to finance, because the mining sector is capital intensive and its return takes longer. So we need to come together and say, how do we support one another to address this financing? Africa has a lot of money, but it's channeled in possibly trade and all the other things we're not getting. So the second one is, of course, policy alignment. You know, once we all have the same policy, so if you came to Nigeria and the policies are this way, value addition, and you run to the next country, Ghana, you know, it should be the same. If you go to Uganda, it should be the same. I'm happy that the ministries and the governments are collaborating around that. The third is infrastructure development. This is really where the challenge is. Minerals, God has blessed us, never happen in cities. Very rarely. They are always in rural areas, and they need electricity, they need water, they need roads. So that's the third element. The fourth for me is the transparency within the supply chain. This is why I said you don't get to see the downstream, you only see the upstream. Most importantly is building capacity and what we are calling, we have a very young population on the continent, we are very blessed, but they are not skilled enough to take advantage of the opportunities that exist. So even if there are jobs, you could probably not get them. And lastly is the technology. So all of those 6 elements work together to make sure that the value chain, you know, is benefiting
to the average African. Of course, when you talked about Africa has money, you didn't mention the fact that there's money in Africa, but also spent outside Africa sometimes.
Yes.
Has been a big challenge for Africans. And of course, we're calling for a change, you know, having our monies right here and of course to develop our people. Now, let's just talk quickly, because of time, about rounding up the conversation. Could you quickly tell us about what CORE is about? CORE International. Tell us a bit about it.
Okay, what does it do?
So we're a marketing and strategy consultancy. So we partner with government, we partner with private clients who are looking to develop their natural resources projects and energy. And we help them how to market their story, tell their story, and also attract investment into their.
And talking about AFNI specifically now, when is this event happening and
so it starts,
how can I participate?
So it starts tomorrow at the State House Conference Center up till Thursday. But tomorrow is a ministerial roundtable and we're expecting 5 African ministers to join the ministerial roundtable. But the main exhibition and plenary sessions start on the 17th to 18th.
So who will be attending? Do you have artisans coming in?
Yes.
And all that?
Yes. So
who
we
is
have
invited. Is it an open event?
Yes, it's an open, but you have to register.
So you have to be in the mining sector itself.
You have to be in the natural resources and energy sector.
Okay, you're talking about registering, like you have to go on the website or something like that?
Yeah, so you can just Google AFNIS Summit and it will come up, or www.afnissummit.com.
Can you say that again?
www.afnissummit.com.
So anybody listening and watching can just register and get
Attend.
access to the summit. So how are you bringing the younger generation on board?
Well, we have a growing population, and most of that population needs some sort of employment. And what we're saying is they should come to AFNIS, look at the opportunities, and yeah, they're welcome to join.
Because you say it's a cost, so you can be tutored on.
You're talking about coming to AFNIS. The younger ones are thinking of leaving the country in the first place.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, and of course, we get to say that even Nigerians or Africans who are outside Africa are yearning to come back. So, what would be your message to younger Nigerians watching you at this time, wanting to participate in AFNIS and thinking about the next flight out of this country?
Okay, so AFNIS highlights where the future is. Yep, so we're going to highlight the future industries where these young people can find employment in the future. And like I said, if we harness our natural resources locally, add value locally, build our industrialization locally, then they don't need to go out anywhere. They don't need to go anywhere.
You know, it's not just going out anywhere, you know, it's the brain drain itself. You know, you're good enough, they take you off the African continent so that you can, you know, go work for them and develop their economy. And, you know, let me come to you, Mr. Moses. This is the third event you're having, that's in 3 years. So where do you project AFNIS maybe in the next decade? Where would you think you would be?
That's a fantastic question.
Yes.
I think it will be a very, very influential platform that can actually be able to shape the future of our sector. You know, the future of how should we be utilizing our natural resources. As we said earlier, we have a lot of talk about the things, but we never get to see the results. And we also appreciate that there is a sense of impatience, especially from the young people, because you have the now, and you know you need to take care of the now in order to be to the future. But one of the greatest challenges we have in Africa is awareness.
Awareness.
Even where opportunities exist, not many people know about them.
So how much awareness is out there?
So this is what we're trying to achieve through AFNIS, to say what can we showcase, for instance. What does Nigeria have? Okay, so that because then when people start to see, they begin to look and say, I did not know that. And possibly I shouldn't be getting on the boat. You know, I should be able to look inward for the opportunity. So I see that kind of promise. You know, there's hope, because we have to move with hope. But I also see, yes, so I also see action.
Okay.
The minister you have here, for instance, pioneered, you know, together with counterparts, the establishment of the Africa Mineral Strategy Group, because we're asking, how do we protect the strategic interests of Africa? And this is why Nigeria is the chairman of the Africa Mineral Strategy Group. And that means there is a vision, but also there is an aspiration. And we think that this summit is not just the only one on the continent. We're building a circuit, so that the circuit then be able to give us all these opportunities and unearth. You probably see that, and I hope you can host some of the ministers from the other countries to, you know, come and tell their story. You know, one of the ways is for people to know that maybe it's not as you're not as bad as you think Nigeria is.
Nigeria is.
There
Thank you so much.
could be other
Moses.
places that are much worse. But all of us are working towards something. And I think the government is doing that.
Thank you so much, Moses Ngadio. Because of time, I think we have to leave the conversation at this point. But you want to say something in 20 seconds?
Sure. There's a proverb that I came across in Southern Africa. To build something, you have to do things. And we started with one thing with the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, which is AFNIS. Then there's another thing that our sponsors, Segulola Operator Resources Limited, Nigerian Content Monitoring Development Board, and FG Gold are helping us develop this something.
All right, we must do something as a people. I think that's a fine point to leave the conversation. Many thanks for coming, and good morning, Niger. We do appreciate you, of course, Moses Ngadio, Secretary General, African Minerals Strategy Group. Thank you for coming, and of course, wishing you a great time right here in Nigeria. And of course, Suleiman Zachary, Managing Partner, Core International. Wishing you a very great success in this summit.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm looking forward to having you some other time so you can tell us about some of the impact and how it is changing the narrative in the country.
Absolutely.
Indeed. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks so much for your time. I am Jimmy Yusuf.
And I'm Yanwe John. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and of course, join us tomorrow. Bye for now.